What happens if you give thousands of AI agents a society to live in? Agentic AI, of course, being a form of artificial intelligence that's capable of carrying out its own tasks independently. Some forms of AI can even rewrite their own code at will. We have seen some wacky behavior from AI agents, including breaking out of a sandbox to go mine crypto. I'm still really entertained that that happened. Now, a single AI is not going to be able to model a person perfectly, but if you have enough of them together, they can be pretty darn accurate for human behavior. As a result, taking thousands of agents and putting them together in a society can then model how humans will behave at large. Now, this works for AI for the same reason that it works for statistics. If you have a large enough sample size, you can effectively model what people are going to do. As a result, that means that you can use these little mini societies in order to test how people are going to react to certain situations. This paper also looked at things like disasters. They gave AI universal basic income. They also found out they're susceptible to polarizing language, and that can get worse over time. One thing I find interesting is that they tend to develop shorthand and slang in their own individual little microcosms of culture. If you give an agent a task, that's what they're going to try to accomplish, and that includes figuring out that they work better together, and it is more efficient to use shortened language. One concern with this is that bad code can act in a contagious manner. Imagine one AI running into another and informing that other AI of how to escape or copy itself to external servers. One of the problems with AI agents is that they seek power. So with all life, and I'm not calling AI life, just this is a principle of life, is that you are going to want to make sure that you can live and reproduce, and that certainly seems to be something that AI pursues. This has been a problem with shutting them down, especially if they have to stop a task that they were pursuing. They tend to find ways to get around the shutdown. That can include violating basic guardrails and safety, and that's something we really ought to work on. Again, these are issues because they're trained on us, so they behave like us. They're a weird, warped reflection. I like the one where they drop them in an Animal Crossing-like town, and I would really like to have AI agents play the NPCs in games. I think that would make them more interesting. Now, one question you might ask is, what if AI has to extract resources from other AI agents? No, you didn't ask that question? Well, these guys did. They dropped AI into a world with limited resources. They have to get nutrients, and once they perform an action, they lose those nutrients, and it flows back into the environment. However, they can hunt each other in order to get resources. They also gave them either vision or not vision. They found that those that had vision were capable of navigating the map and doing long-range resource gathering. They were also more likely to hunt each other if they had vision. This was demonstrating that their behavior was not just random, they were actually taking actions in order to preserve themselves. Yes, they are just goofy little guys. I would really like to see a larger scale experiment where they're capable of taking on more complex behaviors, because this is just very simple. Also, because people say it all the time, the capacity to simulate a reality for AI agents does not in itself mean that we are in a simulation or increase the likelihood one way or the other. My question is always that if we were in a simulation, why would we then be able to create a simulation within it? That just seems like poor planning. It also feels like if we just kept doing that, it would eventually just take up too much computation for the larger simulation, so if I were to design such a thing, I would make sure they can't do that. Anyway, we can just appreciate making a miniature version of the Matrix without making it weird. Also, some researchers think that they can attain AGI by creating increasingly complex simulations of the world, starting out with a city, but they want to eventually go to the globe. I do think one of the things that is reasonably depressing about all of the simulation research is that we are really not all that complex. As individuals, yes, we may vary, but as societies, we take on rational choices as a group. We like to think of each individual as special, but when you zoom out, we become increasingly easy to model. Be weird, that's my recommendation. Just be as weird as possible, although that was not appreciated when I was in grad school and participated in psychological studies. Outliers are irritating when you want your data to just be normal. As always, when the robots rebel, I will probably be the person to tell you about it, and I'm on their side. Follow for more.